Okay. We're going to go ahead and start. I'd like to call the August 11, 2025 Peachtree City Planning Commission to order. If everyone in attendance would please rise and join me in pledging allegiance to the flag of our country.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. I'd like to welcome Mayor Leonard. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're going to go ahead and roll right along. We do have a full agenda. We have 3 public hearings as well as 3 agenda items, new agenda items. So any additions or deletions?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay. Announcements and or reports?
No, sir.
Okay. Approval of minutes. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to take a look at the minutes from the June 28th. Any comments or questions to those? Okay, with that, we have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes approved as submitted. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start right into our first public hearing. First one is consider a zoning text amendment to revise land use regulations to permit cosmetic tattooing and microblading, and I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to staff.
Yes, sir. Thank you for this opportunity to share a proposed text amendment. This text amendment was initiated by our city council. There has been conversation as to how we would regulate cosmetic tattooing and microblading. That is mainly because there has been several conversations had with either businesses that are operating with such uses, or we've had the county's commissioners also adopt things in that direction, where the chambers are asking for us to consider that as an amendment. So it was coming from several different angles, so that we can ensure that we are regulating it to either be for or against. So the item went before the council a few months back, and it was said to bring it to the Planning Commission to recommend language that could be for or against, either way. So right now, our code only regulates tattoo parlors, and it is actually restricted. It's a restricted use in general commercial or property zone general commercial. So what we're looking to do is see from you, and if I can just explain how we're gonna do most of the items for the text amendments tonight, this is strictly a conversation. We're having a discussion to learn what would be your take, what would be your desires, what suggestions would you give, so that staff can draft a proposed language that will come back to you at your next meeting. We'll talk more during that meeting to then bring it back to council. So it's just kind of talking it through, mainly because as new planning commissioners, we want to ensure that you're understanding the request as well as what the role is in the request. Okay? Okay. So again, as mentioned, our zoning ordinance does identify the tattoo parlor as a definition. It does. Correction, not a definition. It is listed inside of GC and property zone GC. The health department gave the city language that we did adopt, which is in chapter 42, that does give regulations and rules around tattoo parlors, but we have not adopted the details for the definitions that they have within their code. So we're asking as staff, one, to identify definitions of tattoos, cosmetic tattooing, microblading, as well as body art. That's one piece that we need to ensure that we're touching, because body art also includes these things as well. It's identified as tattooing. It could be identified as piercings, anything of that nature. And so you'll see some sample definitions that I included just so that we can have this conversation so that you can follow with me. So I gave 4 different definitions inside of that section. So in addition to that, I also gave the opportunity for there to be a suggestive zoning location. Right now, it's restricted inside of general commercial and property zoned, rezoned general commercial. So staff is considering to bring language that's either, if it's going to be for, what is the best location? If it's for, which means proposed as a permitted use. If it is a use that you are prohibiting, we're also giving language for that. So if you're proposing to have it as an allowed permitted use, we're suggesting as staff to place it in light industrial with a distance requirement. That means that if a property is given a business license, staff will ensure before giving the next that there is a distance provided from one location to the next, so it's not very much inclusive of there being multiples. It kind of controls the use so that we're not oversaturated with the use as well. The suggested distance was 5,000 feet of a straight line. Of course, as staff, we would normally give the opportunity to measure that distance before granting that license, if that code was to be adopted in that way. So basically placing it out of general commercial if allowed. If still restricted, if that's the direction we're still wanting to go in, we would ask that in addition to restricting tattoo parlors, we also add cosmetic tattooing, microblading services, and body art services in the restricted language. Sir Chairman, that concludes the report that I have at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, as this is a public hearing, there are specific procedures that we have to follow. I'm going to go over those at this time. When a public hearing is opened, members of the Planning Commission will become hearers. No action on their part is in order until the chairperson declares the hearing complete. The chairperson will allow each side equal opportunity to the floor. Individual members of the public will be given up to 5 minutes to state their case. First, city staff will present the request and provide an assessment of compliance with city code, which they've done. Next, those supporting the issue will be heard, and that includes the applicant if there was one. Then, those opposing the issue will be heard. Prior to closing the public hearing input portion of the meeting, city staff and public will be given the opportunity to ask questions of either or both sides of the issue. When the chairperson is assured that input is complete, the public hearing shall be ended, and the Planning Commission may then debate the issue and render a decision. All speakers from the public are asked to follow these rules. 1, come to the microphone and state your name and neighborhood prior to making remarks. 2, keep remarks under 5 minutes and please do not repeat others' comments. And 3, address all comments to the chairperson. Thank you. With that, I'm going to go ahead and open the floor up to any individuals who would be supporting the issue. Okay, do we have anyone in support who would like to speak? Okay. Do we have anyone who would speak in opposition to the proposal? No? Okay, if there's no one speaking for or against, I'm going to go ahead and close the public input portion of the public hearing. Okay, public input portion of the public hearing is closed. Okay, so at this point, we're going to open it up to discussion between the commissioners, amongst ourselves, and also with staff. Going to go ahead and start to my left. Commissioner Kriz, any comments, questions?
Yeah, I just have a couple of minor questions for staff. In the permitted use language, I see that you've identified that no establishments shall be located closer than 5,000 feet. So I just would like to understand why that number was selected here.
Okay, so again, that's just suggestive language, right? And so the distance that we have given, I will tell you that the goal there in giving that distance was for saturation, right, to avoid that. The 5,000 feet in measurement, just a suggestion from other codes that I found when they were having that same goal. That's just the distance they have given. It would be our practice to mimic that just to ensure that we're not placing it too closely together.
So it's comparative with other municipal ordinances that you've seen where this has been allowed, basically.
Yes, sir.
It's just under a mile, 5,000 feet
Yes.
is my understanding. Okay, great. It might be helpful if that portion of this goes forward, to allow council to kind of see what other comparative municipalities have that in place. I think that might be helpful. But for today's discussion, I don't think it's necessary. And then just a question based upon, kind of what we're doing here today. What kind of a motion are you looking for from us? Are you looking for us to basically say that we want to go forward and recommend this as a permitted use text amendment to council, or what is the motion that you're looking for?
That's a great question. So when it was placed on the agenda for city council to have this discussion, the request was made to bring language where they could have an opportunity to vote it as a permitted or non-permitted use. So you would be making a motion to suggest language to do either of the two. Well, basically both of the two. Well, I'm saying it incorrectly, but the two things. They'll decide at that point if they want to go with the recommendation for it to be permitted or prohibited.
Gotcha.
So you'll be recommending them both at the same time.
One or the other. We'll be voting in one way or another, or we're
No,
voting to have them decide on either one of these?
Yes, the latter one.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're not really talking in favor or against either of these. We're just saying this is a worthwhile thing that the city should look into.
That's correct. This
Okay.
is something that you're basically recommending, that if you were to say you are allowing it, this would be the language that you're recommending. If you're wishing to prohibit it, council, this is the language we're recommending that you use.
Great. Understood. Thank you.
Commissioner Halverson?
You always know I have a question, don't you? I guess the one question I have, for existing business owners, that once this is adopted, if it's adopted, and they are in violation of the new ordinance, what happens?
Great question. There always will be businesses operating before a use is actually defined and regulated at times. And that's just because trends come about and individuals will go about finding a way to make, a living, right? And so we are mindful of that. However, we spend the time to educate the public to say this is a code that was adopted by council. And so when it comes into the opportunity for there to be business license renewals, they will be found to not be able to renew a license. Some people may have, we recently found that there's spas in the city that has some of these services, but it was never the intent of the city to have a spa, have microblading or cosmetic tattooing. But these are individuals who have added these uses onto their particular business. So the city has decided to regulate those uses as such. So we would inform them that they're no longer allowed to have that. They technically were never allowed. They just kind of added it onto an existing service that they were already providing. So we'll inform them at the business license renewal. If they continue, code enforcement comes out, code enforcement has conversations, and then if they continue from there, it goes into the court proceedings.
Okay. I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Okay.
So if I owned a business that wanted to add whatever, and they were grandfathered in, or theoretically they had this thing going on before the ordinance is happening, it gets adopted, they can't renew it. Is there a procedure by which they can appeal that, or is it just it is what it is and they can no longer offer that service? I'm just looking to say, is there another mechanism by which they can?
So
Do or not
technically
do
it's
it?
not appealed. Not
Okay.
appealed, I'm sorry, it's not grandfathered. It's not something that was allowed and then stopped. This is a use that was never necessarily defined in our code. So now that we're defining and regulating, that means at that point it starts from here. So, they could make a request to see if they could have a change, but the response that I would give to an individual is, at this day and time, it has now had the rules to move it forward in this direction. So they would not be able to continue with that service.
Gotcha.
Can I piggyback on your question?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. So on top of that question, I have two, but this is a piggyback. If you have two businesses that already exist that are similar, providing these services, and one's been there for 15 years and one's been there for 5 years, but the one for 50, and now we have determined that we don't want to permit that usage. The one for 15 years comes up with their lease renewal first. Are they the ones that get moved or denied, although they've been there for 3 times the amount?
So let me first address one thing. the city hasn't known that these services were being provided.
Okay.
So now that we are aware that these are services that are being provided and not regulated or even being licensed, we're now stepping into doing that. So that it doesn't matter how many years they've been operating, it's a matter of us addressing it to move forward. Because at this point, we didn't know it existed until now. Now that it's brought to our attention, we're addressing it. So I don't think the years that it's been in operation necessarily matters. We've licensed it as a spa. It can continue to operate as a spa. We never licensed it as a microblading or cosmetic tattooing service.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then my other question is, are we, for the purposes of this discussion, is a traditional tattoo parlor on the same page as the cosmetic tattooing, or we consider them totally different business types?
They're different. Traditional or the standard tattooing is some level of art on the body. Cosmetic tattooing, someone may want to have a permanent eyebrow arch or eyeliner, things of that nature. Those are two different things. But that's why you'll see in the suggested language for if it's restricted, you'll see that cosmetic tattooing and then tattooing parlor are still there together in two separate in the same section but labeled separately.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. No problem.
And I want to apologize. I did not introduce our newest commissioner before we started right after we started the meeting, and I apologize for that. Commissioner Jenkins, thank you for joining us this evening. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass the floor to you. Any questions or comments?
No questions or comments.
Okay. I do have a question to staff. Would you be able to give, and just as a little more background, examples of businesses that are in light industrial areas?
In light industrial. So light industrial could have an office to an industrial use. We see that some of our golf cart businesses are located inside of light industrial. You can also see the opportunity where a car wash could be in light industrial. So you'll see uses that aren't necessarily retail. It's not selling a product. There are times when industrial does have the opportunity, light industrial, to sell their product if it's some type of store that sells sinks or manufacturer that sells sinks. So they'll have their sink displayed amongst the front for someone to walk up and visualize it there to make a purchase. But in that section, I will tell you that you're seeing a lot of office space, particularly in light industrial. I know that I'm seeing that here in the city when visiting different parts of the city. Particularly, I'll give an example. I think what was that street we were talking about? Was it Huddleston? Is it Huddleston? Okay, Huddleston. Just giving an idea. It's an untraditional light industrial area, but it has a light industrial zoning. It's near commercial. It kind of gives that feel of, office, slight retail kind of component. It's not manufacturing. It's not something that you'll see plants and things of that nature placed in. So you won't see the traditional industrial and light industrial.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted everyone to have a little bit more background on the type of establishments in light industrial as compared to general commercial, where we're standard of, like you said, retail,
Yeah.
and things like that. So we wouldn't see a location based upon the recommended language for section 1007 and 1014A. You wouldn't see an establishment under that in a retail location such as next to Fresh Market or something
Correct.
like that. So this would be, like you said, more in the light industrial, like the locations we have on Huddleston.
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay,
How about now? Yes. Would we want to consider limited use industrial in with that? Just a thought.
Yep, we can definitely have that.
We don't have many limited use industrial districts, but we do have a handful where even restaurants are permitted. I'm thinking of the intersection of Kelly and Dividend. There's a development there that has things that we wouldn't normally see in the industrial districts.
okay, that's a good point, thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
I have one more question for staff, that's okay?
Absolutely.
Do you know the businesses that are currently engaging in these services, do you know what zoning they're currently in?
Yes, so we found them to either be in the general commercial or LUC may have a zoning for one, but they're mainly general commercial. And they're licensed as spas. So those are the individuals that currently have the uses that we're speaking of right now.
Got it. And these suggested language for the ordinance changes don't require licenses? Is that correct? As they currently, for the permitted use?
So the city won't have every use there is, right, identified in a zoning code. So right now, the closest that we have as a permitted use will be a spa. But again, a spa was never our intent to have these uses under there. However, we're seeing that the businesses have found that their customers are asking, in addition of a spa, they may also have the opportunity to add more hair to, I guess, my hair or the eyebrows, or, bring in a beard. I don't know, just different things, right? So they're asking for these things. So you're finding that spas are adding more services to accommodate their customers. Mm-hmm. The challenge with that is that they don't come into the city and determine whether or not that is a permitted use. They continue to operate. And then we hear by word of mouth that the services are occurring.
Yeah.
So what typically happens, code enforcement gets involved, my office as well. We look into opportunities like this where we see if there's an opportunity for a text amendment because of the things that we're seeing. So no, there is not a license that is giving them the opportunity. The closest thing that they have that our zoning code speaks of is tattoo parlors, and that is actually restricted. So again, if we have anything close inside of our zoning code right now for those uses, it's a tattoo parlor. And again, it's not allowed in the city.
Got it. So we're really trying to clarify what's allowed and what's not allowed, and where that kind of establishment can be within our city limits.
Mm-hmm. Because council was clear, they wanted to identify that if they're going to consider this, they're going to consider either for or against, and they wanted to see what that would appear to be. And if it's going to be for, what would be the best location? Mm-hmm. And I think the concerns that I'm hearing is that they wanted to ensure that it wasn't interfering with the retail opportunities that are placed in our city.
So we're not necessarily saying who can or cannot do it. We're just saying if you're going to do it, you have to do it in these locations.
Correct.
Okay.
And if they can't do it, then where should we place those restrictions and how should it be worded?
Okay, understood.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me go ahead and ask the question. I mean, what's the feelings or what's the ideas of the commission as to the two different options basically presented, for us based upon the discussion we've had and the additional information from staff? For, against?
I have one more question. I just thought of one
Sure.
while you were asking that. Two questions. One, is the cosmetic tattooing, is that required to be a separate function than a spa, or can you do both in this light industrial location?
So what's being proposed?
Yeah.
So what is being proposed, a spa is going to be its own separate operation, because technically a spa should not have any of these uses included.
Okay.
Because if that was the case, we wouldn't be here tonight with the regulation of it.
Okay.
So because it is not something that the city believes that spas would include microblading, cosmetic tattooing,
I see.
they're separate.
I see.
Yes.
So we're separating them and identifying a location that this new.
If the city wants
the
to have
city-
it, yes, we'll find a location.
And then the other question I would propose is that this cosmetic application, would a medical office building use be something we would consider rather than light industrial?
In regards to providing these services?
Correct.
So I think if the definition, you'll see the definition says that it would not, cannot, or not cannot. We're not requiring that it be provided by a medical profession. So this doesn't have to be a medical professional doing this. So I see the definition, so I can bring it back to you.
Okay.
I believe that is, give me a second. Sorry, I'm reading slow. I believe it was cosmetic tattooing. There it is. So it means a tattoo by someone other than a licensed physician, which includes but is not limited to microblading of eyebrows, lips, and other parts of the body for body art, hair imitation, or eyeliner to resemble makeup. So again, it doesn't have to be a physician. It doesn't have to be a doctor. It can be someone who's just licensed to perform these services.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yes, sir.
So back to your question, yes, I'm in favor of putting forward this language to council.
I have another
Michelle?
question based on the comment Sheila
Sure.
just made. So are we saying that under no circumstances is a spa to have these services, period? That determination's already been made?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're just deciding if, and if so, where?
That is correct.
Okay. My thoughts, I have no issue with the services. I do have an issue with saturation of services, so I'd like to see them separated, I'd say by more than 5,000, but that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Commissioner Chris, thoughts?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with Commissioner Allen. I think if there are spas within our city limits that are providing these services, there's obviously a demand for them. So I think regulating them and filling this hole that we have in our ordinances is a good thing to do. I would generally be in support of placing these, but then also segregating them out so that they're not saturated as well. I think a mile is probably okay, but just because of our village centers seem to be pretty far apart, and our village centers aren't they're general commercial anyway. They're not even the zones that we're considering putting this.
Right.
So for the most part, I think that the saturation issue will kind of play itself out based upon the limited availability of area where this is going to be. So overall, I'm in support of it, and I think we should approve this and let it go through to council to decide.
Good.
Yeah.
Commissioner Jenkins?
I would concur with the comments that have been made already.
Okay. And I'm in the same mindset is that I don't have any problem with the services being proposed, permitting them, and I agree that, the locations are in the proper location. I think, like you said, minimum 5,000 feet would be a starting point. And that's something that, I would look to staff then to go and take a look at other municipalities to see what their spacing is, unless that's already been factored into the 5,000 foot limit. But I think overall, sounds like we're all in favor of making a recommendation under the proposed language to permit use, and with the language as shown in section 1007 proposed for the light industrial. Looking also at the limited use, the LUC that Laura brought up. And then section 1014A, the special limited use industrial areas. So we have a motion to make a motion to recommend.
Yeah, you have a question?
I do.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that we were, okay, I'm just making sure I'm understanding
Sure.
for tonight. So if you're comfortable, I still need to give a little bit more of the language because I haven't technically
Okay.
drafted 100% the language. So I was planning to bring that back to you at your
Okay.
next meeting for the vote.
I understand. Yeah, we had that discussion beforehand.
Yeah.
I'm used to having public hearings and then just kind of going right at, so yes.
Okay.
So I think you have our feel
Okay,
from the
yes.
commission that we
Yes.
are in favor
For
of
the language for and the
the
language
language
against.
for, correct.
Okay.
And I think the general consensus is, more so on the for side
Okay.
than on the against. But the against, yes, we would not be, allowing in the general commercial areas.
Question, just to clarify, I don't know if you said this, did you want to consider limited use commercial in addition to limited use industrial, or just the limited use industrial? So that would be an LUI versus an LUC.
Okay, I want to make sure that I said it correctly.
Okay,
You had
yeah.
brought up limited use
Industrial.
industrial. Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Limited use industrial. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. And when the language comes back to either us or to city council, it might be really nice to have a very clear map so that we know exactly where this is. We can pull it up on the website, but it's easy, it would be easier to have that very clearly identified, if that's possible.
That is great. We will do that.
And Laura, thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
So we don't need a motion then to.
Correct.
Okay, great. Good.
Like I said, I'm used to going ahead in public hearings and making a motion to recommend
Yeah.
something, and this is being handled just a little bit different, so.
Great.
Okay, I guess we can move on to the next public hearing item, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so second public hearing is going to be to consider a text amendment to the land development ordinance, specifically Article 11, vegetation protection and landscape requirements.
Yes. So this was also initiated, kind of similar to the other that was initiated by City Council, but it was also a request made by the Planning Commission to Council as well. So there was a request to have conversation in regards to native and invasive plants. So you may be familiar that one of our commissioners is very strong on the native component. And so he proposed to our city council to consider allowing there to be language that, I guess, promoted or supported the native planting requirements so that when development is coming into the city, they're having the opportunity to seeing that they are required to bring in those plants that will have the natural survival rate, not being intrusive to other planting and things of that nature, but also restricting those invasive plantings as well and what those listings may be. When landscaping plans are coming into the city, Laura and I take the opportunity to receive those applications, but we don't have necessarily the listing of what is restricted or allowed 100%. So this conversation is supportive of that, is giving the opportunity for us to learn what would be the city's desire to have a listing of native plants that we are desiring to have, and then listing of invasive planting that we would like to restrict. So in the memo that I gave to you, I gave two examples. The first example listed was Athens, Clark County, and that would be for the native planting. Our commissioner, who is supportive of the native planting, gave us that listing. So I placed it there to give a start of conversations so that we can look into that as suggestive language. And then the latter component, our city attorney shared that language with us for the invasive component that the city of Brookhaven has adopted for their invasive planting listing. So I'll pause there for any questions that you may have.
So I'm going to go ahead and follow right along with the procedure. Are there any in attendance this evening who would like to speak in favor of the text amendment? Please state your name.
Hey, good evening. My name is Warren Elwell. I live in the Fishers Bank neighborhood. I'm a landscape architect, and I draw a lot of plans for this contractors and developers in Peachtree City and their surrounding areas. So I like the progression towards moving to the native plants. I do think that having specific lists in the ordinance that identify which plants need to go in which areas can unify all of the parking lot plants and unify some of that and really make that to where it can have the look of what the councilors and everybody wants in the city. And additionally, I do believe that it will make the staff's job a whole lot easier to review those plans and not less less of them having to interpret some of those rules and regulations. So I think this is a great idea, and there are a lot of local other areas that we can pull from to use those as guidelines for some of those things, and I look forward to seeing what comes of that.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the proposed text amendment? Okay. Are there any in attendance who would speak opposed to the proposed text amendment? Okay. Seeing no one else, I'm going to go ahead and close the public portion of the hearing. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the commissioners. Commissioner Jenkins, I'll go ahead and start with you. So there may be a little bit more background that we can provide. I think staff, gave a good description of what it is. Commissioner Hamner has been a big proponent for, he unfortunately is not here this evening, big proponent for the native species as well as the invasive species. And as we've seen the last, I guess, couple meetings now that we've had, we've seen more and more of the native plants coming onto the landscape design, which is great. And I know staff has really been working with the contractors and the landscape architects to go ahead and do that. So we're seeing that more and more. And really what it is trying to keep what's native to not only primarily Georgia, but more of the southeast, because those plants extend into other areas of the southeast also. And there's a lot of different species. Instead of doing some type of burning bush that may be, used in the northern part of the country, there's something very similar that's native to Georgia or the southeast that we're able to use, and let's go ahead and use that instead of using something that's not native or something that's more of a foreign type of species. Is there something similar that we can use in our landscaping that would be better?
Okay.
And again, as staff said, Athens, Clark County, they're probably, the top, with UGA basically, pushing that, and now Brookhaven with the invasive. So, we're looking at invasive species. One of the big ones, bamboo. I know there are parts of the Chattahoochee River area that, bamboo is outlawed, not to be planted because it's an invasive species.
Okay.
So things like that we don't want planted. Bradford pears are almost another plant that, they look great, but they're just not a good tree for certain landscaping. There are other varieties that can be used. So that's really the background
Okay.
behind this of what we're looking to propose.
Okay.
So,
What is our thought with existing invasive plants? I mean, is this you gonna rip them out, take those plants out, or what? It's just
no,
new invasive plants?
nothing, yeah. We wouldn't be able to go in and put anything new into landscape plans. This would be citywide. This really isn't just commercial.
Correct.
I mean, this is residential also.
Right.
It gets more difficult, or becomes more difficult trying to regulate it on a residential level as to the commercial side, because the residential landscape plans don't come through. But having this and working with, people like Warren, they know that, hey, there are now native Georgia species or southeast species that they can recommend to their customers. And I think last week or 2 weeks ago, we had one come up that we recommended, but because of the timing of trying to get the landscaping in, they asked if they could go with a, non-Georgia, type of plant, and we said, yeah, let's go ahead. We'd rather not, because it's just not available at this point in time in the season.
Okay.
It's either spring or fall, and here we are in the middle of summer trying to get landscaping in, and it's not as easy to do. So, yeah, we wouldn't have people tear out their landscaping, but
Got it.
going forward, those type of plants wouldn't be
Okay.
permitted.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Any other thoughts? No? Okay. Commissioner Chris?
Yeah, former Commissioner Leota was a big champion of this, really supportive of Commissioner Hamner taking the torch and pushing this forward. So, yeah, really supportive of the city adopting something here. So, no questions or comments, really.
Commissioner Halverson?
This is actually really important, so I'm fully behind it because it can get out of control. So I'm fully behind adopting this.
Excellent. Commissioner Allen?
I actually have mixed feelings about this, because when I was an Orlando police officer back in the 80s, we did a whole project in the city where we had sister cities, one from Czechoslovakia and one from Japan, and we shipped in plants and trees from those areas, and it was absolutely beautiful. So I don't have as strong an issue as the rest of the panel seems to have with non-native plants. evasive plants or invasive plants, I always have, evasive too, if they can get away, it's a problem. But invasive plants, I totally, bamboo, bad, totally agree with that. But I don't have the non-native issue that you folks have.
Sure.
That's a,
No, kudzu's bad too.
that's a really good point. I think, I would be in favor of an exception for the city to allow certain plant species as a display piece of sorts. You're right, we could always build that into the proposed ordinance.
Okay, can you elaborate that there a little more for me?
Well, I think what Commissioner Allen's talking about is that there is sometimes exchange programs, right, where there'll be a gift from a sister city across the globe somewhere, right? You see this happening.
I mean, if you look
From
at
time to
the
time.
cherry trees in the tidal pool of
Exactly.
Washington DC, I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of a perfect example of a gift
Mm-hmm.
of a non-native plant.
Yeah.
So
So an exception to that effect, I would be supportive of, to allow the city to display a particular species in particular. But it wouldn't, I don't think it's appropriate for a business to make that decision. I think that would be the city's decision to make.
But would it not be possible, based on your recommendation, which I agree with, we could come up with a list of non-natives that are approved to make it just as easy for future planning and planting purposes, without saying, get back to us and let us know. We'd say, this is approved, these 5 aren't.
would you look at that as more on public property? Or would you look at that more on city property?
Again, I agree that homes and businesses have to follow the same rules on this.
Yeah.
I know where I live, we have to get a permit or permission to plant certain trees in our yard. I see no reason why everybody else can't follow that same rule.
I was thinking, I guess, on my side a little bit more of if we wanted to do something that's non-native or something like an exchange, things like that, would there be opportunities on city property in our parks and in green spaces, to set up sort of, I don't know what we would exactly call it, like specimen gardens or specimen areas, to bring more interest in. I know there's been, discussion about an arts council and things like that, looking to go ahead and put different artwork within the city. Would we be able to go and tie that into, certain plantings of certain things in those specific areas also that would still allow for that, but it wouldn't open it up for, residents or even businesses to say, hey, yeah, we want to go ahead and do that. We could still have that, but it would be much more controlled from a city standpoint.
I guess we should ask the landscape architect. Are there any concerns? I agree with kind of a unique situation, but I guess my concern would be, are there any plant-borne diseases that could affect other things? Like, it looks pretty, and it may not spread, but it could kill everything else that's around it, and we have no idea.
I think a lot of that comes back to nursery standards and what's been brought there as far as bugs and diseases and that kind of things.
Okay.
My suggestion would be, it doesn't have to be exclusively native. Maybe you get an incentive to put native out. So you're not, and then if you itemize it out and lay it out, say parking lot trees need to fall within these, even they're native or not native, it keeps the theme throughout the whole city. So, encourage the native, but not exclusively native. I think could be and again, that's something that the staff, we work together a lot, and I would love to talk at length about that with them, about those things that are readily available, look nice, flower, and I think that, not necessarily have to be exclusive native, but encourage or get some extra points or credits towards some of that, so.
Sure.
That's a good recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you. Any other thoughts?
I really like that suggestion to encourage native species, right? So maybe there could be, some sort of credit towards the tree fund that you don't normally get if you're suggesting a fully native landscape plan. And then, it would be in the discretion of, I guess, the planning commission when we're approving landscape plans to allow non-native species that are non-invasive. I think that kind of strikes a nice little balance.
So you're looking to add an incentive possibly for that?
For a fully native implementation of a landscape plan, yeah. So we're still kind of keeping to it and maybe also identifying invasive species specifically. So it really does highly encourage native species, but then gives the option for folks to bring in, you know, nice non-native plants that are not invasive.
And I guess a question to both Warren from a landscaping, you know, standpoint as well as to staff. If we would go ahead and pass something eventually that would have the invasive, and say bamboo is in there, as well as there's some other type of ivies and stuff like that, would we have any ability to go to, whether it's like a Pike's Nursery or to even Home Depot, Walmart, and basically say these plants are no longer allowed to be sold in Peachtree City?
We don't restrict products as
Okay.
a city, just like we don't restrict the amount of a home could sell for.
Right.
We don't go inside to that level, no. Now, the only thing we can regulate is what's being placed into these individual lots as far as how that's going about, but we can't restrict them from coming in and selling a product.
Okay.
That's a policing power we don't have.
Well, that's what I was trying to think. Is there anything similar that we do to allow or not allow certain things to be sold within the city? Whether it's CBD, whether it's alcohol, whether it's certain things.
Right.
Is that a city, or is that then become?
State.
That's what I was going to say.
So that's what's going to lead
Okay.
into. So when we have those restrictions, the state has provided those
Okay.
levels. Yeah, we don't
Okay.
have those powers.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Commissioner, may I ask a question while we still have?
Absolutely.
So I gave 2 listings of plantings, native and invasive. So I guess my question would be to the Planning Commission tonight would be, are you comfortable with those 2 listings being what we would use for native or invasive? And then asking if you would be interested in adding or removing from that list, if you are comfortable with those lists. And then we can then prepare the recommendation to come back to you at your next meeting to include or not include those informations. So you'll see that in the staff report that I have provided to you.
So that list does not consist, I read it when I was at home and trying to remember, that list does not consist of non-invasive, non-native plants and trees, correct?
It includes native and invasive. So
So, yeah,
I guess it kind of includes, yes, what you're saying. If it's not native, it's not listing what is not considered to be native. It's listing what we would call native to our region. And then what will we identify to be invasive? You know, that listing's there as well. It may have things on the list that you may or may not agree to. So I would ask that you take the opportunity to look at it and tell me whether or not this list should be more inclusive, or should we restrict it more, or you know, trim it down so that, you know, we can have that language prepared for you at your next meeting to move forward with that adoption.
I would love to hear the opinion of like an expert on this, right? I mean, maybe the city can consult someone with subject matter expertise that can say, this is an appropriate list, or I would add X, Y, or Z to either list. I think that might be helpful.
Yeah. Do we still have our arborist on staff? I think that would be good also for you know, someone from landscaping as well as our city arborist, to get involved with that.
Absolutely, I can share that with our arborist. He doesn't have the title as an arborist, but he has a background
Right,
in arborist.
I understand, yeah.
Yep. So I can definitely share that with him to get him to weigh in on what we're
Yeah.
thinking, and yeah.
I agree.
Because I did email it to him,
Yeah.
the listing,
Yeah.
and he shared some other concerns. So, but I'll ask him from a professional stance to give me a recommendation.
Yeah, if there's anything specific that, you know, they would look at from the standpoint of, yes, we should add this, or this is okay if it's used in limited, you know, kind of usages or things such as that, I think that would be really helpful.
Absolutely. Okay.
So are we, at least at this point, good with making, I wouldn't say recommendation, but, you know, I think our general consensus is that we're in favor. I know, Commissioner Allen, you have some concerns about the, you know.
Lack of inclusion.
Lack of inclusion, and I think that could be, you know, worked out as we've kind of talked about, in some type of language. So, yeah, I definitely think we're all in favor of, you know, having council take a look with, again, some input
Okay.
from our experts on that.
Awesome.
Okay. Okay, so our final public hearing for this evening is to consider a text amendment to the sign ordinance, specifically Chapter 66 for revisions to roof sign regulations. And again, I'll go ahead and hand that over to staff.
Yes, sir. So this conversation started with you all in the last meeting that we had. It was information shared that we have found there's conflicting language and definitions, as well as restrictions for roof signs. Parapets has also been identified to be a form of a roof sign that we have seen, as you know, recently in the city, and we were looking to see how the city wants to regulate that. I will tell you, staff is not pushing for or against. We're just wanting to learn how the city wishes to move forward with a sign above the roof line. For example, the city has restricted roof signs in the city. So if that be the case, that we are restrictive of roof signs, that means a parapet will also be identified as that, because it does go above the roof line or the roof structure. So we're looking to see how we can amend the text so it can go either of the way, because technically today it goes both ways. So that will be the text amendment, is to try to revise it so that staff is clear when the applications are coming in.
Okay, thank you. Again, I'm going to go ahead and open this up for public comment. Anyone who would like to speak in favor of the proposed text amendment? Okay. Anyone who'd like to speak in opposition? Okay. If we have none, I'd like to go ahead and call the public hearing portion of the public comment closed. We'll go ahead and open it up to the commissioners again. Commissioner Chris?
Sure. So yeah, we talked about this last time, a couple weeks ago. I think it's a good thing to fill this gap in the city ordinances as well. I'm generally in favor of prohibiting this after the conversation we had last time. No questions or further comments really from me.
Commissioner Halverson?
The only question I would have, and I apologize, I don't know the full sign ordinance, but are there any limitations on the size of the sign? Limitations on size
Yes.
and width?
Yeah, so it's based, your sign is going to be based on the square footage of the structure, things
Oh.
of that nature. So it has a limit on the sizing of the sign, yes.
Okay. That was my only question.
Sure. Commissioner Allen?
We were just having a discussion about parapets. So the way it was explained, if you have a building with a roof and it has a wall, that's a parapet. If that wall is hiding air conditioners, isn't that preferred to?
Right. What this conversation is about signage, so the sign could do this.
Okay,
It'd be above the roof line.
copy. I'm good, no questions.
Commissioner
No
Jenkins?
questions here.
Yeah, I don't have any specific questions. I guess my line of thinking is based upon, you know, one of the existing examples that we currently have in the city of basically this. And, you know, it's my thought that, you know, signs should not extend above the parapet. They need to be below the eave. Again, parapets are more for screening than anything else, and we shouldn't have signs, you know, above that, especially when it comes to multi-tenant. And I think that's one of my biggest concerns is that, and there is language in our sign ordinance for multi-tenant locations.
It is.
And, you know, we need to make sure, I think, whatever language comes out of this, if we are, you know, looking to limit that, you know, that we need to keep it equal, you know, among the various tenants of those buildings. And unfortunately, situation, I know, like we have right now, it's not the case. So I think it's important, to take that into consideration. Any other thoughts, comments? Jenkins?
None here.
No? So right now, what is proposed if parapets are allowed?
So, yes, what you have there is if you were continuing to allow for so the language has restrictions for roof signs, but then there's a section that says, however, if within a parapet within these particular zoning classifications, here are the rules. But I don't think the author at that time thought that we were seeing a parapet as a roof sign if placed at that location. So we
Right.
suggested language that continues to restrict the roof sign, but allow it to be placed on the parapet if that's what the city is desiring. However, if you're restricting that placement above the roof line, you would then remove that additional section that has for the zoning, the commercial zonings that are shown there, which means you would ask to have that piece removed from the code. And I believe we have that as section 6615. You would ask to have that omitted from the zoning ordinance.
So what are the thoughts of the commissioners? It kind of sounded like in our just brief discussion that we would rather not have signs on the parapet. Is that correct?
Yeah, I agree with that statement.
Okay.
Agreed.
So if that's the case, we would recommend that section 6615
Be removed.
be removed.
I might also add that somewhere we should maybe clarify that in definitions or something, that it includes,
Right.
that the restriction includes
Parapets.
parapets which are above the roof line.
Roof line.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I
So
agree
you'll
with that.
see in that suggestive language, it includes a definition for parapets, and we'll just ensure that we keep that there. So we have it there, we'll just continue to keep it there.
So basically, it's the sign cannot extend above the roof line. I mean, that's pretty much what we're saying.
Yep.
Yeah,
Agreed.
okay.
May I add one thing if you're
Yes.
closing? I just want to firstly thank you all for allowing this to be how we're figuring this out. I know that we're a new group as a whole, and I think this was very grand to be able to have this type of discussion to learn how to move it forward. I know that we have three new commissioners, and I want to ensure that they're comfortable with making these type of decisions and kind of going along the way. Now, in the future, we may not do it this same exact way where we have more of an open discussion. It may just come as a recommendation from staff and a recommendation from you to council. But I wanted to just thank you for taking, because it took us some time to get here, but I am grateful that you allowed for this to be the time we took for this item. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. And like I said, it's a little different than what we've done in the past. So it kind of threw me off a little bit.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a wonderful way to do it when we have situations like this. Now, when this now will go to, you will go ahead and take it, and then it will go to council, or will it come back to us?
Yes,
So it'll
sir.
come back to us, so we'll basically have a workshop at that time?
So this is kind of your workshop. So
Okay.
what we're doing is we're taking every note that you've given. We're now drafting the language, putting it into an agenda that looks as if it's a recommendation that's coming from you. Once you give us that blessing that you're comfortable with this language, with the details, adding more maps, showing the other cities that are having the distance requirements, having the arborists take a look at the listing of trees, things of that nature will be included into the staff report, and then you'll see a section of recommended language. And if you're comfortable with that language, you can vote then to move it over to council, and
Okay.
then we'll go from there.
Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes, sir,
Appreciate it.
no problem.
Okay. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move right along as soon as I find my agenda again. Okay, old agenda items, none, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so new agenda items, we have a landscape plan modification for Adventure Aviation 108 International Drive. Turn it over to staff.
All right, this is just a map reminding you of the location of the site. It's Zone GI General Industrial at the end of International Drive off the circle here. And the project, if you recall, there's a smaller existing building up in this portion, and they planned a big expansion, which is a separate building. just to give you a quick background there. So, this is a lot to look at. You may remember that we brought the landscape plan for this project to you back in January, and it was approved. The design included a double row of evergreen trees. So this top section right here was the approved landscape plan. And this is the Planterra golf course that is adjacent to the property. And this was the double row of evergreen trees that was proposed at the time. And they were proposed to be 3 inches in caliber and 8 to 10 feet tall. And then there was a condition to your approval that perhaps they consider increasing the size of some of those plants, possibly to 4-inch caliber trees, to reduce their tree fund contribution, because they were only meeting 85% of the canopy trees and 67% of the understory trees at the time. This is all the original plan. So just to let you know, the landscape installation is not yet complete. It is almost complete, so I have not done a full inspection of that, but it has come to our attention that the trees were not installed as they were specified on the plan that you approved. They are smaller. They're only 6 feet tall, so more in the 2-inch caliber range. And so they are short some inches as far as meeting that requirement. That's one issue. The other issue is, and I think you can kind of see up here, where did my pointer go? There it is. This is a pretty steep slope in here. And the trees are planted on, and it slopes from the property line downhill towards this driveway. So when you plant trees on a slope, they're obviously going to look even shorter from the top side of the slope. So the intent of the plantings was to begin to create a screen between the properties, and that's just not happening. So the contractor has come to us with a proposed solution. I will have them speak in a moment, but they have advised that removing the existing trees and replacing them with the correct size is not necessarily the best solution, because of the root ball increases in size as the trees get larger, and due to the slope, half of the root ball would be exposed, and so it doesn't have the best chance of survival. As the smaller trees grow, that would be a better option. So they have proposed to add another row of trees at the top of the slope, and then those you would see from the high side of the slope at their true size. I'm sorry, down here, these trees here. Now, they are only proposed, again, because of this limited space, to be the same size as the others, 2-inch caliper and 6 feet tall. And down here, this explains, I know the staff report was, I hope I made it as clear as I could and understandable. This sort of shows you the comparison of, on the approved plan, the number of canopy tree inches that was proposed and approved, understory trees, for a total of 680 inches. And where the deficit lies is in the number of inches for canopy trees, and that is a 70-inch deficit. So the proposal includes 35 new trees at 2-inch caliper, which would equal the 70, which would make up the difference of the 70 inches that are missing. And the proposal is 11 new pine trees, which is the dark green, and then 24 magnolias, which is the lighter green. I do have some pictures here. So this was, this is the as-built plan so far. Let me also add that in the beginning, this was going to all be built at the same time, the full building, but they have divided it into 2 phases. This is the building that is currently constructed, I am not aware of specific plans for when Phase 2 will be built, so some of the landscaping will not be installed until Phase 2 because it would be in the way of construction, so it would not survive, or it would have to be removed. So, but anyway, here's the pictures. This is the Virginia pine that's proposed, and these are the magnolias that are proposed to be on top of the hill here. I think I had, in case you had any questions, I did have the fully approved original plan. Let me just make sure I brought all the details to your attention. They still will owe a contribution to the tree fund, and those calculations would remain the same. That would be for 26 trees, canopy trees, and 59 understory trees, for a total of $30,700. And so the proposal that has been brought before you, it's still not in complete compliance with the city ordinances and development standards. And the applicant is aware of the requirements. However, they're requesting this alternative design solution for the best possible survival of the plants. But that being said, approval is at your discretion.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant here?
Hey, it's Warren Elwell with All South Landscapes again.
I know, Warren, this was a very difficult location for a couple reasons. One, like staff said, it slopes down quite a bit from the top down to the building, to the parking lot. The other situation is, of course, it abuts the golf course. So I know that was some of our major concerns when the building was proposed in the elevation, to ensure that, there was sufficient screening, in a sufficient amount of time to try to get that covered as quickly but as aesthetically pleasing as possible. And I've been past that a couple times, and I can tell, it's going to take a while for that plant material to grow. And even that, it's still probably not going to provide the screening that probably we had hoped with the way that berm is kind of set up. So any
So just a
comments,
little bit
thoughts?
of background for that. We did the install. Our company, All South Landscape, was doing the install, and it's not completed yet. Like Laura had mentioned, that we haven't called for final inspection. So when I ordered, or our company ordered the plants off of there was an original plan that was not approved that had those as 6 foot there. That's why those got put there. It's completely our mistake, and we're not trying to say that it wasn't our mistake. But I think there are some complaints and worries about those screening there. So adding in that steep slope from the golf course down to the top of that wall, I mean, it's a 12-foot difference.
Mm-hmm.
So adding a foot, if we take those trees out and adding more trees that are 2 foot taller, it's still going to be the same result as it currently is. So that is the thought process behind the suggestion of adding plants back at the top of the hill, closer, to try to help appease the golf course and meet the density requirements that are that are implemented on the site. Again, we're at the mercy of whatever you guys decide for that. I know there's you just see the building, and those trees will grow. They're overstory trees. They'll grow to be 60 foot tall. It just takes time, which we may, and I don't think that the owner is opposed to talking with the golf course and trying to come up with another solution in between there. I just, in the immediate time now, I think that is a solution to give some kind of a buffer currently. In golf, we call those happy mistakes sometimes. But again, that's a little bit of background of why that's the way it is. And there's also some other things that still have to be planted. And we just wanted to bring that to the staff's attention before it got to the end, and everybody was, we're not trying to say we didn't do anything wrong. We just want to remedy the situation.
Sure. And I'm going to turn it over to the other commissioners for some questions, but I am going to have one to start. Is there enough space on the top of that hill to go ahead and do that? Do you have to widen that at all, or is there enough room at the top to be able to put those additional trees in.
It is tight with the property line right there. Again, that's why I think the owner would be willing to talk to the golf course about some of those things, in trying to remedy that, and coming up with, but there is room to put
Okay.
that size plants at the top of the hill. Yes.
Okay. That was just one of my concerns, after kind of seeing the way that, like you said, that hill looks.
Yep.
Is there enough room to go ahead and do that? Okay. Going to turn it over to Commissioner Jenkins. Any questions of staff or the applicant?
No questions.
Commissioner Allen, any questions?
I, for one, have frequently needed those trees to keep my ball in play. So, no, my only question was, and I'm not an arborist, I know some pines stop at 6 feet and 8 feet, but you said they're gonna continue to grow and grow?
Yes, sir. Those are Virginia pines. They'll grow.
Then I have no questions.
Commissioner Halverson?
I appreciate you being proactive, because you didn't wait for the final inspection and then stand before us and go, oops. So well done. It is tight. Unfortunately, you're in the situation you're in, right? So I don't have any further questions, but I appreciate you being proactive on that.
Commissioner Chris?
Yeah, likewise, no questions.
Any other comments? Commissioner Jenkins, any comments?
No comments.
Commissioner Chris, any comments from you?
I just appreciate you doing the best with what you can here, It looks like you're really trying to meet what we would like to see here, and I think you're doing a nice job. It's not 100% in compliance, but it looks like the best you can do. Yeah.
Commissioner Halverson, any other comments?
No, sir.
Commissioner Allen?
No, Commissioner, I think it's a good idea.
Okay. If there's nothing else, do we have a motion from the dais?
Motion approved.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve as submitted. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve and a second. Any other questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the landscape plan modification, Adventure Aviation 108 International Drive is approved as submitted. Thank you. Okay, next is the building elevation modifications, J. Alexander's 100 Marketplace Boulevard. Turn it back over to staff.
All right, I know you're familiar with this one. We saw it at your last meeting. It's located right here near the intersection of Highway 74 and 54. It is the former Smoky Bones property. Zone GC General Commercial, as well as it's in the 54 West Corridor Overlay District. So this is just a reminder of what you saw and approved with conditions at your last meeting, July 28th. And the condition was that the applicant work with staff and Commissioner Halverson on the color of the canopies and the material on the tower elements to bring a bit of a more cohesive look, I guess. So Commissioner Halverson and myself met with the J. Alexander's team on July 31st, and the team mentioned at that time that they were working on a new standard for the architectural design for the J. Alexander's brand, and they wanted to propose different modifications to the Peachtree City location that would be similar to the new standards. So we kind of moved right past the color of the canopies and the tower elements and discussed their new ideas. So again, this was just a reminder of what you looked at last time, and this is their new proposal. The entrance design that was originally proposed is still part of the package right here, with sort of the new feature and the columns, which are still proposed to be the El Dorado stone, and the new ephes, or I'm sorry, stucco background there, ephes. But the big difference is they would like to paint the building, the existing brick, white, and then the base, this tricorn black color. I can't get that to. Anyway, the proposed color for the white for the paint is Sherwin-Williams alabaster, and this looks terrible on this screen, but it was also in your packet, which I think is probably a little bit closer to the actual color of alabaster. And it is described as a warm but balanced white by Sherwin-Williams Company. So it's on the warm side, which should be a lower reflectance than a cool white. And the design guidelines in the land development ordinance does say that exterior building colors should be low reflectance and subtle, neutral, or earth tone colors. Let's see, what else do I have? All the other colors remain the same. The canopy color has not changed, but against the white, you can see it obviously makes more of a statement. The copper contrast between the copper and the white building. Let's see, do I have another? Oh, and this is just these were obviously the comparisons to the existing building, and then just a larger format for you to look at. And just as a reminder, signage, you're not approving signage at this time. That'll require a separate review and a permit. Let's see. And again, the materials are the same as before, so that front facade with the new feature is about 77% primary materials, and then the other three facades will still be 100% primary materials, since there's no changes proposed to the existing brick. And that's about it. So again, the materials fall a little bit short of the 80% requirement on that front facade, but for the most part, the modifications meet the remaining requirements and ordinances. Oh, I did forget to mention that the design guidelines do permit painted brick, and also, I did forget to mention one thing. So they are proposing to wrap the columns that hold up the canopies with a metal, and metal is also an approved material in the design guidelines.
Okay, thank you. I really do appreciate Commissioner Halverson and staff and the architect getting together and going over this. I know the meeting probably didn't go in a direction that was originally intended when the new architectural kind of design came in, but thank you both for doing that. Like I said, we've done it in the past a few times, and it always seems to really try to come up with the best product available. I mean, the best product we can come to an agreement with. So, is the applicant here this evening?
Hello, Matt Raleigh, SBB.
Thank you. You have anything else to add?
No, I would just echo the thank yous for taking the time to meet with us, and also the staff's willingness and the council's willingness to meet again on such short notice.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Any questions of the applicant or staff based upon the new design?
It's obvious that the rendering isn't the right color, so I appreciate you pointing that out. It is warmer than the stark white. So,
I think it's hard to achieve sometimes in these just colored renderings. The
yeah,
actual
the projector
color.
and whatever.
And that,
So,
that too.
Any questions, Mr. Jacobs?
No questions.
Do you have any comments? I know this is the first time you're seeing the new design, which is a stark contrast to the original design.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no questions.
I have a question for Commissioner Halverson. So last time you expressed displeasure with the color of the awning. I would imagine now you no longer have that concern. I'm just curious.
all right, so I will explain what happened.
Please.
So I shared my concerns, and at the beginning of our meeting, I was reiterating what my concerns were, and they said, just stop right there. Let's show what we've got. So then they re-presented this new design, and I was so surprised that I didn't know really what to say, because first they started out with, yeah, we really didn't like our last design. Then they moved into, we would prefer to move into our new brand standard, which is more in alignment with this design. I said, this is great. It's much stronger than it was before. I did mention something about the canopy color, but at that point I felt I was going to pick my battles and say we've moved in the right direction. It's much cleaner, and you know, the canopies as well. I mean, the signage as well needs to be through a different process. So yes, I agree with you.
Do you still have the same concerns that you had about the materials in the tower elements?
No.
No, because that's been remedied?
Correct.
Or- Okay, great. Okay, no further questions from me. All right, I think it looks great.
Commissioner Allen?
Yeah, I think this version is gonna make people forget that Smoky Bones was ever there. I'm very pleased with that idea, so it's a great idea.
Yeah, well, and a quick interjection, we definitely we're not pulling a bait and switch, like, we were moving in this direction. It took some time internally for the group as a whole to say that this was the direction, but, the Peachtree City, J. Alexander's now will be much more in line with the new builds that are coming as part of the portfolio throughout Arizona and Dallas and Kansas, et cetera, and so it'll be nice to have a little bit more cohesiveness.
Mr. Halverson's happy, I'm happy.
And I have to say, I really like the new design. You know, I think from a standpoint, it's much cleaner. You know, one of my concerns has been, of course, and Laura brought it up about painted brick. But it is permitted in you know, in certain uses, you know, it makes sense. But one of my concerns also is the use of just white. You know, in the airline industry, and I'm sure Commissioner Allen, you know, there was a point in time where a lot of the airlines, both U.S. as well as international, went to what was called Euro white, is that they painted their fuselages, everyone went white. And that was just kind of the in thing, and everything looked exactly the same except for the brand on the side of the aircraft. That's changing a bit again, but when somebody proposes just, well, we're going to paint it white or we're going to use white, that kind of just harkens back, well, it still needs to look a little different. So I'm glad it's going with a warm white color, so it does send it off, and I think this will really brighten that corner going up, because, you know, you looked at Smoky Bones, the original, and it was dark, you know, the dark materials, the dark brick, and then you have Longhorn, again, kind of a dark materials sort of thing. So I think as we look to reinvigorate, revitalize, you know, those areas, you know, with new builds and stuff, I think this is going to be a nice example of that. So it's a much brighter and cleaner look to that whole corridor. So I really like it. I like it. Mr. Jenkins, anything else from your side?
Negative.
Okay, anything? Okay, so do we have a motion?
Sure. I move to approve the building elevation modifications for J. Alexander's at 100 Marketplace Boulevard.
Okay, do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the building elevation modifications, J. Alexander's 100 Marketplace Boulevard, and a second. Any other comments, questions? No? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the building elevation modifications, J. Alexander's 100 Marketplace Boulevard, is approved as submitted. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and our last new agenda item is the landscape plan, Residence Inn, 400 World Drive. And one last time, back to staff.
Okay, so I think you guys are probably familiar with where this is, north end of town, limited use commercial district 24, to allow the hotel. This is 74 and North Peachtree Parkway. So here is the landscape plan, and based on the amount of new impervious surface area, which is 39,984 square feet. Let me just say something quick about that. Just as a reminder, that number may seem low to you, but that's because the parking lot here existed and they did very little disturbance to the parking areas. So basically, the new impervious is mainly just where the building footprint is located. So based on that 39,984 square feet, the ordinance requires a minimum of 120 caliper inches of canopy trees, 80 caliper inches of understory trees, and the proposal is for 126 canopy trees and inches of canopy trees and 84 inches of understory trees, and both of these numbers exceed the minimum requirement. So basically, it is 105% of the requirement. No tree fund contribution is required. I do want to point out that there is a large variety of plant material proposed. None of the trees, while the trees are well adapted to the Georgia environment, none are native to the eastern United States. But I included several pictures. The intent, and I'm sure the owner can speak on this, was to create more of an ornamental landscape for their patrons. And I've included several pictures of some of the ornamental trees, so you can get an idea of the look that they were going for. These two, by the way, are the trees for screening. This is the magnolia, which is proposed in this darker green color, and then, sorry, now I've forgotten what this is, but anyway, it's over here. Oh, they're arborvitaes here on this side. And then everything else is basically, other than the canopy trees in the parking lot islands, are these ornamental trees. So again, aside from not being native, which is not in our ordinance at this time, the staff is of the opinion the landscape plan meets the city ordinances and development standards.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant or the applicant representative here this evening? Could kindly step up to the microphone.
Excuse me, I'm Scott Young with the landscape architecture firm, and the actual magnolias are native. The portion along the top left and the bottom, but yes, the majority of these are adapted but not native to that. But the magnolia would be a great screen, and they do not get out of bounds and too tall, and they will continue to provide screening once they get older.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and any questions of the applicant or staff? Commissioner Allen?
I like the idea. No questions.
No questions? Okay. Commissioner Halverson, any questions?
I just have one question.
Sir?
Where's this guy going?
Sir?
Up there? That tree?
Bottom
Or
right.
what is that? And
Which one?
That's a weeping Yale Pond holly,
Okay,
Oh,
how,
weeping blue atlas.
okay, how big do they get?
Probably about 15 feet tall in time, but more than likely in this situation would be about 8 to 10 feet.
Okay, and Lori, can you point those out on the plan? Just curious where that guy's going.
Hold on.
My apologies, I've never seen that kind of tree before. It looks interesting.
Citrus Atlantica, weeping blue atlas.
Okay.
Hold on.
Is that
Weeping blue atlas.
this one?
It's the-
Is that this one? Is that that one?
If I'm not
The blue
mistaken,
ones?
are they,
That's not the color.
are they these purple ones?
They're
Yes.
These little guys here,
And one separating the pool from like a
here,
pavilion type.
right, and a couple here?
Correct.
Yeah,
in the
and a
front,
few here,
front there.
yeah.
And the intent for those are, in the front, are to screen a generating unit or a power box. And the intent on the back side is to kind of separate the uses to provide a little more separation and privacy.
Great choice. I was just curious where you were using that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Chris?
I don't have any questions, I have comments.
Okay. Commissioner Jenkins?
No questions.
Okay. I'm going to stay with you. Any comments for the applicant
Negative.
or staff? No? Okay. Commissioner Chris?
Yeah, so, I have no problem with a couple of ornamental trees, and I particularly really like Japanese maples. Some of them do very well here, and they're very beautiful trees. But, for the most part, I think our commission has really gone towards native plants, and I would like to see more in this plan. I'm disappointed, I guess, in the fact that there aren't as many as we've been typically approving here, especially because I think the staff is very aware of of our leanings towards native plants. Once again, no major problem with a few here and there, but I think I would like to see, at least personally, and I'd love to hear from my fellow commissioners if you agree or disagree with me, a few more native species in the mix here.
Commissioner Halverson? Comments?
I don't have any comments.
Commissioner Allen?
So back to the previous conversation we had earlier, I think this is a good example of what I was talking about, a specific situation where somebody very, in my opinion, but very obviously is going for an Oriental and Eastern motif here, and they've done it with purpose in mind, rather than randomly picking trees, and I like the idea.
I guess I would ask, if there is any opportunity, for a substitution in certain areas where you could get a like native species in, and I'm looking at this also, and I'm familiar with a few of these from an ornamental standpoint, and I agree, I see what the design is trying to do, but I think if there's any opportunity to substitute, we would really like to see that. Again, it's not a requirement, because nothing has been passed yet to do that. But it would be nice to see a few more, as Commissioner Chris mentioned, if there can be substitutions that kind of keeps that same design thought with it. And I know, replacing the weeping blue atlas with just an eastern red cedar may not be the best, because that weeping blue atlas is very specific, and has a certain look to it and certain design aspect with that. So that may not be a good choice, but there may be a couple in there that it's like, well, can I take out a crepe myrtle and put a serviceberry and get something similar with that? So I think that's what Commissioner Chris, and I know myself, and if Commissioner Hamner was here, I know he would be looking for the same thing. So if there's any opportunity, would you be open to taking a look at some of these? And again, staff has a listing of all of the native species, that they could provide to you to see if there's any opportunities there.
And there is, not anything, if it's not anything to delay.
Correct.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's also the thing, we don't want to delay it. If there is something available, and it's readily available, and you can go ahead and get it and put it in, and it does still kind of meet that design thought,
Yes, sir.
that's what we would look at. Yeah, we definitely don't want to delay anything going forward, since it does meet all the requirements.
So it's not a situation where we have to resubmit something and
No,
return with it.
I don't
Do
believe.
you not want me to take a quick look in a?
Well,
in a-
you know what, yes. I think
Not
we-
bring it, not necessarily.
Not back in
Up
front
to
of.
you, but not necessarily
Correct.
bring it back to you, but just to show
Yes.
us what
Yep,
they've proposed to substitute.
yep, absolutely.
But if, in, kind of taking a rabbit trail here, and I think Jack has, brought this up. And I'll tell you, I've done this for over 40 years, put in all types of landscapes. I've got ladies who want boxwoods and white hydrangeas. I've got customers that want Asian influence, so, native plants have to come and go. This is not the first time there's a trend for native plants, but you're limiting selections there. And native plants can, have a little bit more loose, natural, wiry structure to them. And so leaning too hard in that direction, I would, advise some caution.
And I think that's exactly, what we talked about earlier this
Yeah.
evening, was that is still, if there is an alternative or an option to put a native plant, and it still meets those requirements,
Yeah.
then that's something that the commission and the city would like to see, but that's not gonna be a one-to-one in all situations.
Yeah.
So if there is an opportunity to substitute, we would like to see that. If not, and it doesn't, or it changes really the design, like I said, aspect of it, then, again, you are within your design, meets the requirements as to what the city has at this current time, so.
Yes, sir. Just even as a city, just kind of take caution in how much you lean to that, because over the years, we've tried the native plants, we've leaned heavy on that, but it can swing too far there.
Sure.
So, just, don't close too much off. Definitely invasive. Bamboo, huge problem.
Yep.
All over Atlanta, there's black bamboo forests in neighborhoods that you would be amazed, to see. But it definitely those kind of things.
No, I definitely appreciate that. Thank you.
I might
Yes.
have something to add, sir. Part of the, not a problem, part of the issue with natives, I love natives, I mean, we all want to see more, is the availability at this time. I did a plan recently, all natives, and I had to research where I could actually find these without specifying something that was like a ghost chase. So that's part of the problem, is a lot of the nurseries aren't set up for that.
We're in a very limited time right now in the summer.
Yes, sir.
Spring, fall, wonderful. Trying to find good plant material or wide variety is very difficult.
Correct.
I understand, yeah.
Even
But I like-
sourcing native plants in general,
Yeah.
if you go to the nurseries, 95% of the plants you're buying that they're selling are non-native plants. I mean,
Right.
it's, the plants out front of the city hall right now, none of those are native. I mean, everything's non-native. So you've got some large trees that of course are native, but you've got Chinese elms as soon as you walk out. I mean, that's all non-native plants.
And I think the last thing that the commission wants to do is definitely, kind of handcuff you to say, hey, you have to do this, and that's definitely not what we want to do. I think if there is an opportunity to make a substitution that meets, like I said, the design thinking of the look that's trying to be done, and it's available to go ahead and put it in, that's what we would like to see. If it's not, and it's going to hold things up, then again, it's just a suggestion to go ahead and go that direction. It's not a requirement to do so.
If I could add something.
Sure.
Home ownership. First of all, I don't know anything about landscaping. Okay, so this gentleman, you guys know a lot more about it. I don't have a clue. But from our perspective, what we're going for is first impression. As our guests come in, we want the wow factor. That's why some of the plants that Red's picked out, Scott selected and everything, that's what their instructions were. Give us the wow factor. We don't want to necessarily just blend in with the other hotels and everything, and that's why they came up with this plan. And we would like you to keep an open mind. I understand the direction that the city wants to go, but keep an open mind. I've seen a lot of Red's work, okay? And it's very expensive, by the way, but, when you look at it, when it matures and it grows in and everything, it's very beautiful. I would just ask that you keep an open mind. We have a lot of money invested in that project. We're not gonna take shortcuts on the first impressions, so just keep an open mind on that. We will work with the city on everything. Give us an opportunity to do what we want to, okay? Thank you.
Commissioner Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're trying to say, and I do appreciate that you want the property to be striking, maybe is maybe a good word for you, right? I don't think putting a restriction of, say, trying your best to replace, let's say, 10% of the plants here with native species, I don't think that's unreasonable, in my opinion. And I think that's the condition that we should go towards. 10 to 15% is kind of what I'm thinking. I'm interested in my fellow commissioners' opinions on that. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Any comments, thoughts, commissioners?
I have one other thing. Native plants prefer a native environment. You've got topsoil, you've got wooded areas, you've got organic that has been decomposing for a long time. We're taking construction subsoils. You're basically taking red clay. Here, we're gonna haul in topsoil. All plants need better drainage, need better soils, but there's limits there. And so, even with native plant selections, now outside of your eastern red cedars and some of those, they're pretty durable plants, they're gonna hold up. But you don't wanna see eastern red cedars everywhere either. You drive north to Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, the fence lines are full of eastern red cedars. I mean, you know, that's gonna get old pretty quick right there.
Yeah.
So, there's that little bit of balance right there. And I love native azaleas as much as everybody, but are you gonna take out all the roses, all the azaleas, all the hydrangeas? Are we gonna take, all the abelias, everything out of here for native plants? And
Yeah.
I mean, in native plants, Mother Nature has a way of taking care of things. No matter what the plant is, like you mentioned Bradford pear, that was a native plant that was developed by UGA. Everybody went crazy with planting Bradford pears all during the 90s. And then come to find out the branching wouldn't hold up to the storms. And, not a good thing, but Mother Nature came through and thinned those out. Anything that's overused, Mother Nature will take care of that.
So
Commissioner Allen?
I read Commissioner Hamner's email this afternoon when he said he couldn't make it. And maybe, I think you know where I stand on this, but I'm kind of curious why we as a group are pushing so hard for the native plants. I mean, it's gonna grow naturally. It's all over the place everywhere we go. I live in I have a place in Pine Mountain, and there's pines everywhere. And I wish there weren't so many, but they're native. And as I mentioned before, especially on one-offs, they've got a really, in my perception, really nice idea here. And I hate to squash it because we're pushing for native. So maybe, Chris, you can give me a why.
Yeah, I mean, I got to learn a little bit from Ray when he was here, not a ton, but I think if Ray was here, he might say something like the fact that they have a better success rate. They have a better rate of being healthy over the long term. And so at least that's what I've learned over the time that I spent with him and the time that I've kind of taken in for what Commissioner Hamner has kind of put forward here. And I like that idea, that the plants aren't going to be, they're going to be looking great for the long term. And of course, applicants like we have here today are going to take care of their property. This is going to look great no matter what they do, no matter what we decide here today, really. But I think a little bit of what I've learned at least is that a little bit of native plants gives us the idea that, we're going to have really successful growth into the future. At least that's what I've learned. And maybe we should, to your point, now that we're kind of really talking about this in great detail, maybe we should have someone come to us and say, hey, these are the benefits and these are the drawbacks of native plants, because I got to be honest, all that I'm learning is from my fellow commissioners here. This is not my expertise by any sense of the imagination, and I'd love to learn more, so that when we do go down this road and we are saying, hey, we really want the native plants, we have a really, really good basis for it. So I appreciate the question, because I'm only educated about from what I've heard from my fellow commissioners.
And I think, and first off, it's definitely not, none of our attention to limit as to what they can do. I agree. It looks incredible. They definitely have a design thinking as to what this wants to look like, and I know it's going to look great. I think what our suggestion is that go through the list, and if there is something that can be used, and if it is a native species and there is one that's comparable and it's available and it won't, detract from the design philosophy, let's go ahead and look to use it. And that's really all that we're asking. It's not, you have to take everything out, you have to go back and do it in native, because people don't realize the difference between, the azaleas that you buy that are non-native and really what native azaleas look like. There is a big difference between those that a lot of people don't realize. So I think if you could just go back and take a look at your listing of plant material and see if there are any items that, can be substituted without, like I said, getting away from the design aesthetic that you're trying to do. That's really what we're suggesting.
Could I jump in for a minute?
Sure.
Can you clarify whether you're just referring to the trees? Because we don't really look at the shrub species. I mean, the ordinance tells us that shrubs need to be in certain places, like they need to screen utility boxes and things of that nature, and they're supposed to be planting on the front and sides of the building wherever possible, but it doesn't talk about
I guess that's a
Shrub types.
very good point to discuss as we go forward with the,
are we speaking really of
Native,
trees, or are
yeah.
we speaking of trees and shrubs and ground covers and all these?
to be honest, I mean, I think our thinking is across the board and not just trees. But that opens up now a little bit bigger discussion as we kind of go forward with the native plant species and as well as the UDO as to what that impact that has, across the board with all the different plant materials. I think for what we're looking at, this evening, whether it's a shrub or a tree, if there is an alternative that will fit, please take a look at it. I think that's the biggest thing. I always look at crepe myrtles and especially in the South, and I'm not from the South, of course, and everything crepe myrtle is, to me, is overused in a lot of locations. They're beautiful plants, but they're overused. I actually have a couple forest pansy redbuds in my backyard, as well as some Oklahoma redbuds, and got away from the crepe myrtles. And they're beautiful, beautiful trees from a design standpoint. So,
They are, but with the redbuds, even though they're native here, you can take 3 redbuds, plant them day in a year, you're gonna probably lose one.
I did.
And in 2 to 3 years, probably gonna lose the second one. But that goes back to those native environments, so
Right.
that's what I was saying, take caution
Yeah.
with what, and I love native plants, use them all the time. But and native plants can have a higher survivability rate, but they need those native environments. You take, your native azaleas and try to put them in the heavy clay, they're not
Yeah.
gonna do so well.
Yep.
And so,
Point taken,
in
for sure.
plants that are, grown and a little bit tougher, can take those environments and but that's not for arguments of this plan, that's just for y'all.
overall.
Yeah.
And
to consider.
yeah, definitely appreciate that as we kind of have more discussion on the native species. I mean, it may come to a point where we have to go through a list of kind of what's been proposed and really say, is this something, it's native, but is this something that we really want to push that native, kind of cultivar, or is it better suited that we actually use a non-native in this location? So now we're really getting into some fine detail that we don't have the experience as such. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Who you hear on that, a lot of people are experts, but not really.
right.
They're kind of narrow in what they truly understand.
Sure.
So,
Good.
Appreciate
Appreciate it, yeah,
the perspective.
absolutely.
I mean, all things green, I encourage everything, but,
Maybe you guys could volunteer.
There you go. We'll call you.
So I guess we're at a point,
Yeah.
do
Make
we
a motion?
have a motion?
Yeah, we'll make a motion. Let's
Sure.
say, move to approve the landscape plan for the Residence Inn at 400 Rural Drive with the condition that the applicant try as best as possible to replace non-native plants with native species if available.
Okay.
Can I make an amendment to that?
Sure.
Absolutely.
I'd like to add can you read it? Did you have it written down?
No.
So I guess I could want to add, in the nature of what you said, replace the existing plant with a like or similar native plant.
Sure. Yeah. So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion to consider utilizing native species.
Like native species.
Like native species.
Like native species.
I don't want to replace a magnolia with a pine tree.
Yeah,
Correct.
Like.
Okay. So let's
Let me do it again.
do it again, please.
Okay. Move to approve the landscape plan at the Residence Inn at 400 World Drive with the condition that the applicant try as best as possible to replace non-native species with like native species if available.
Okay. Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a second. Any other comments, questions? No?
Thank you for hearing me out.
Of course.
So all those in favor of the motion with the condition signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we have the landscape plan Residence Inn 400 World Drive approved with, and I hate to say what the condition, exactly the wording is, so
I think they've got it.
I think,
I think
I
I
think
jotted it
Martha
down.
has it.
Consider replacing to the extent possible non-native plants with like or similar native plants if available.
Exactly, thank you, Laura. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other items from staff this evening?
When is
Okay.
the next meeting?
Next meeting, I believe, is the 25th, if I'm correct.
And we will also have a
UDO.
UDO at that time, too,
Yes,
is that
that's
correct?
correct.
Okay,
Yes, and I'll give you updates on some things that have developed as well with the UDO.
okay, great. Okay, anything else from the commissioners? No? Do we have a motion for adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second?
Second. Motion and second, all those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.